Okay, so welcome to my workspace. This is where I do my thangka painting and printing. I'll show you some of the equipment I use, and we'll talk a little bit about what I use and why I use it. Number one, here is reference material. So this is as many art books as I can collect, which all have to do with thangka painting. Many volumes there. I might make a separate video and we'll go through some of the books and look at some of the titles I've chosen and why I think they're good books and how I use them as reference material. Coming over here, this is my main workstation. Number one is a comfortable chair, so very important to have a very comfortable chair and a good place to work. So I had a friend bought me this chair. It's a very, very good one. Coming to the computer, you can see my Cintiq 24-inch. Then behind is a 27-inch color accurate monitor, and that's very, very important in terms of producing thangkas. You generally want to work zoomed in on this monitor, and then on the larger monitor that's behind, you can view the whole thangka and make sure that whilst you're working on like a micro level, working accurately, that it's not affecting the overall thangka in a way that's it's either not helping the picture or you're making some kind of minor correction that isn't actually going to be seen in the finished picture. So it's a larger monitor set in portrait mode, and the full picture is always visible there. It's open a second window, which means that as I'm making changes on the Cintiq, as I'm drawing, then the larger monitor is reflecting those changes. So again, you're working here on a very fine micro level, and then on the larger monitor you're checking your progress like that. I work like this, one hand, left-handed, and then second hand is always on the keyboard. So one hand on the pen, one hand on the keyboard. I don't use any of the express keys on the Wacom. I've tried them. I find it a little bit of a waste of time, and it's also not, if you're drawing for 12 hours a day, it's also not particularly ergonomic. You want to try and avoid pressing buttons too much. The keyboard, as I said, learn all the shortcuts, many shortcuts as you can use, and this hand stays on the keyboard. This isn't a touch sensitive screen, so here I'm zooming, rotating, changing tools, typing in text layers, hand constantly on the keyboard. I tried working without a keyboard, and frankly they're indispensable. You can try working keyboardless, but the amount of time you spend going into menus didn't seem worth it to me. I measured, I have a little tachometer on my pen, and in a 12-hour session of drawing, just drawing the lines, your pen moves about 1 kilometre. If you have to constantly be moving into menus to select things as well, because you've abandoned your keyboard, then I'd say that you'd be travelling at least double that. And if you're working 12 hours a day for many days, which is what it requires to finish a thangka, then it's going to become problematic after a little while, and you can start dealing with some very serious problems with your body, like RSI and things like that. Over here I have a mouse. The mouse I use to go between monitors, so if I need to work on the upper monitor, I use the mouse. The Wacom tablet, the pen will only work on one monitor. There's like a toggle switch where you can work on the other monitor, but I prefer to use the mouse to switch between monitors. So let's say I put Adobe Bridge up there, and this is my database of thangkas. So there's thousands and thousands of thangkas there. If you try and navigate through those with your pen, you're in for a bit of a challenge. But the mouse has scrolling features, and lots of gestures are enabled with the Mac mouse that helps you to go through your reference material. So always keep the mouse, and then as I need it, I use the mouse. But primarily I'm drawing with the left hand on the tablet because I'm left-handed, and then right hand on the keyboard selecting tools. Underneath is my MacBook Pro. I don't know if you can see that. Here it is over here. On this side is the computer that I used up until about 2 months ago. which I believe it was about 7 years old. So you don't need a new computer to use Photoshop. It's not a resource-hungry program, as you might expect. The main thing with Photoshop is to have a lot of RAM, and if you're using a desktop computer, is that it needs a second solid-state hard drive to use as a scratch disk. Okay, so outputting prints. Over here is my printer. So this is an Epson 4900, and that's what I use to create the prints. So as you can see here, there's a couple of prints I've just done, and paper I use is Epson Cold Press, which is my favourite paper, Cold Press Natural, which is doesn't contain optical brighteners, so that's more of an archival paper. I print in both roll, 17-inch wide roll, and I use A3 Plus cut sheets. These are just proofs that I've printed out here before I make some final adjustments. They're both A3 Plus or Super B, and then once I get finished with the thangkas, then I'll do a final print 17 inches wide. Also print on canvas. You can see some of my canvas thangkas there on the wall. And then once they're printed on canvas, you can brocade them into a traditionally presented thangkas. It's a lot of work, and I've sort of developed a technique to do that, but if you're into your prints, the prints rarely look very good on canvas, and if you're wanting a traditional look, then brocaded is perfect, but to get the best quality, the best colour saturation, resolution, then printed on paper behind glass is actually better. Okay, so I hope you've enjoyed this tour of my little workshop. I work in a round room, believe it or not. So we'll pan around the room. And it's out into my living room. It's a blank wall. And finally there's my massage chair. That's for when it all gets too much. Okay, hope you enjoyed it.